Hello and welcome back to Lord of Heroes on Nyris Gaming. The anniversary update is out today, so we're going to take a look at the skill level ups for each of the new heroes, as well as a couple of other things. So first things first, free stuff. Coupon code. This will get you 10 alchemy tickets, so free 11 pull. We have our Earth Rashad recruitment down here. And just like that, 1,200 cups of tea. You'll be getting bursts of these on the regular, I believe, daily. And then you will choose these dialogue options to fill up this teapot. And the higher you fill this, the higher the chance he will join you once you press this 300 option. And once alliance members, you have to be in an alliance for this. Log in, you get extra bits based on certain numbers of logins. And you get a little bit of something each time. Next, you'll come up here to the hand with the heart. This is the Invite Friends event. This is where you will have your personal player code to send to people when they join the game. They can enter that, and then you will both get rewards once they do certain things, like reaching Lord level 5 for new players and battling 10 times in the Alliance raid for returning players. Mine is right here if you want to input that into yours if you're new to the game or returning. Then at the bottom right here, you have the Donation Mission tab. This is where you will receive your rewards for how many friends you have invited, first of which being Light Lynn. This is how you get her. And then at tier 3 and 5, you will get the recruitment thing to get either Light Lynn, Water Johann, or Water Lyrae. Right next to that button is going to be your daily login for the 4th anniversary festival. This will normally each day pop up automatically when you first log in, but there are a lot of nice things to get here. Bunch of soul stones, decent amount of link stones, and at the end, 10 featured relic summon tickets. And speaking of those, on the left here we have our new side story, and then there's a challenge version of it. Instead of that just being the last stage of it, there is a challenge version of all of the stages that will be unlocking as time goes on, and you will really want to do these because the rewards for this are elemental soul stones and a bunch more featured relic tickets, like a lot more. So you might be able to actually focus a relic that you want for a specific hero you summon. That's about that out here. Let's get to some of the new heroes. We'll start with our two new light strikers, first of which being Rowan. Is 1, attacks a selected enemy, fills the action gauge of the user by 15%. This just gets damage and then 10% more action gauge at max rank. There's a bit of a theme with these. There's a lot of them that are pretty boring, but there are some that are a bit more interesting, like this one, I believe. Never mind, I was wrong. 3 turn cooldown, attacks all enemies, 50% chance to gain action ready for 3 turns. If that effect does not trigger, increases the attack of the user by 30%, stacking up to 3 times, expiring after a wave of enemies. The action ready will go up 1 turn at max rank, so it'll be a 4-turn buff, and that will boost the crit damage of his burst, which attacks all enemies, dealing up to 100% more damage when there are fewer targets. The crit damage increases by 300% if he's under the effects of action ready, and 100% if he's not. And this just goes down 1 spirit cost at max rank and damage otherwise. So his levels are very simple and straightforward. None of them, I would imagine, are all that necessary. They're just going to give him more power. Some heroes in the game will have certain skills that you need to level to make them what they're supposed to be. Rowan is pretty just straightforward. Light Lynn next. For 1, attacks a selected enemy, heals the user based on the damage dealt. She gets 3 instances of 10% more damage and 10% more recovery twice. Very straightforward as well. For 2, removes all debuffs from the user, cooldown of 5 turns, fills the action gauge of the user by 50%, additionally increases the attack of the user by 30%, stacking up to 3 times, ending after a wave of enemies. Very similar to Rowan. Hers gets down to a 3-turn cooldown at level 3 and 4, going down once each. She gets another 5% attack per stack at level 2 and 5, for a total of 40, and therefore 120% attack increase at max. And the action gauge she gains goes up by 20% at max rank, so there's a lot of really good things in this one. So unlike Rowan, this one would be very useful to level up primarily. Makes it do a lot of even more effective stuff than its base, and more frequently, because you want her to get those stacks up as soon as possible, so those cooldown levels especially will be a priority. And her burst, very simple. Attacks a selected enemy, deals up to 5 times additional damage based on the target's max health. Spirit cost of 3, gets more damage, and then at level 6 goes down to a 2 cost burst. Otherwise, I didn't even notice before, her passives are exactly the same as Rowan's, because they are both light DPSs. Next up is Earth Rashad. Earth Sniper is 1, attacks a selected enemy, 60% chance to reduce the defense of the target for 2 turns, gets more damage 3 times, and then 10% debuff chance twice at 5 and 6, for a total of 80. So really good defense down, albeit it is only single target and there are a couple of 80% AoE defense down characters. His 2, 4-turn cooldown, attacks all enemies, 70% chance to reduce speed of each target respectively for 2 turns. Additionally, fills the action gauge of all allies by 30%. This gains 3 instances of more damage, then 10% more action gauge up to 40, and 1 turn cooldown reduction at level 6 for 3 turns. So the amount it boosts is about on par with most other action gauge boosters, but the cooldown of it is not, whereas most action gauge boosters have a 2-turn cooldown. His is a 3, so it's more in line with the likes of Fire Aslan, although his does more action gauge. So good, but not fully ideal. His burst attacks all enemies, 70% chance to inflict wither on each target respectively for 2 turns, deals 35% more damage for every debuff on the target up to a max of 10 debuffs and 350% damage. This gets just more damage and a reduction down to 3 spirit cost from 4 at max rank. His are a bit on the straightforward side as well. I'm trying to think of where he would fit in the best, because he's very underwhelming in the specific things that he does, albeit with someone like Fire Rashad, I believe, who got increased damage on targets with reduced speed. Characters like that he could work with very well. I'd have to look into it more for Earth-specific teams, who this would synergize with the best. But anti-heal and lowered speed and lowered defense makes me initially think more on the PvP side, because those are very effective against player characters. And lastly, our second Fire Commander. We are only missing Earth Commanders now. Fire Ondel. His 1 attacks all enemies, fills the action gauge of all allies by 10%. Additionally, fills the action gauge of Fire Elemental allies by another 10%. And the attack strength increases based on the user speed. This just gets more damage, and then another 10% action gauge gain for Fire Elemental allies at max rank. So a Fire team would gain 30% action gauge just from his 1. His 2 starts at a 3-turn cooldown, grants Revenge to the selected ally and the user for 1 turn, so he can fire off his 1 in response to getting hit, even though he is not a warrior. Increases attack strength of all Fire Elemental allies for 1 turn. Additionally, grants taking the lead to the user up to 10 stacks, which expires after defeating a wave. Gets a bit more burst gauge gain at the first 2 levels, then it goes down to a 2-turn cooldown at level 4. The Revenge duration goes up by 1, boosting that to 2 turns. Given this is a 2-turn cooldown, that can be kept up constantly. And he will still be getting hits because of the counterattack if he's getting hit in between, so he's not missing out on damage and boosting. And then the buff duration goes up +1 turn at max rank, which based on that wording I would imagine boosts the duration of both of the buffs. So it would have a 3-turn Revenge and a 2-turn attack strength up for Fire allies, which is fantastic, honestly. Usually things like this, though, are worded in a way that says grants the highest attack ally Revenge, so you can plan out how the AI will handle it. This one does not, so I don't know how it will target allies. His burst is a spirit cost of 3, attacks the selected enemy, deals 35% more damage for every buff on the user, up to a max of 210%. Now something with that I don't entirely know because I haven't experimented with it. I don't know if stacking buffs count as more than 1 or just that one type of buff counts as 1, because if that taking the lead gives 1 buff per stack, that could easily hit the maximum on this, on top of the Revenge and the attack up, but I don't know for sure. Additionally, grants morale speed to all allies. There's another buff, so even if those stacks don't count, that's 4 buffs already, which would be 140%, which is only 2 stacks short of maximum. Grants morale speed to all allies for 2 turns, which gives them 5 speed per stack of taking the lead on Ondel, capping at 50, and the attack strength increases based on his speed, which will be boosted by that morale speed. This just does more damage up to level 5 and then goes down to a 2 spirit cost at level 6. His commander passive in the Calamity's Cradle, crit hit damage of all Fire Elemental allies is increased by 15% base, and this caps weirdly at 22%. Oddly specific number. Goes up very minimally each level. 1, 1, 1, 2, and 2. That is about it for now, but here are the summon banners. We have Rowan for 40 days, Ondel for 40 days, Light Lucilica and Dark Vanessa for another 10 days if you have not gotten them yet and you want to, and they each have their relic banners for the same time periods, which you have an option to get a ton of those tickets currently, so do take advantage of that because that is not a normal thing lately. But that'll do it for now. Let me know what you all think about the new heroes and the event itself. Like if you liked, subscribe for more in the future, and I shall see you in the next one.